Hi, Global Health and Culture students. It's Dr. Elizabeth Paul, and I wanted to share with you a brief presentation of my trip to Europe 2 weeks ago. Today, in this presentation, I'd love to share with you a few points about why I went to Europe, specifically to Germany, who I went to see, what I hope to achieve, where I went and who I met, and what I'm working on presently. So when I first went to Europe, I went to a couple of different places, a couple of different countries with my husband and my family. And then the first significant place that I visited was the Dachau concentration camp. I've read so many books on World War II and the atrocities committed by the Nazis, but I had to visit Dachau, and it was more emotional than I can ever explain in this presentation. But it was a great way to start my presentation and my focus on refugees. So what I wanted to do was try to better understand the plight of refugees seeking hope, specifically in Germany. This is a picture of one of the families who I met in Germany 2 weeks ago, and it was their last picture before leaving Aleppo. There are many people fleeing Syria, Afghanistan, Iraq, Eritrea, and many other countries at war who are seeking freedom in places like Germany, Sweden, and other EU nations. Today, there are more than 16.5 million refugees, the most ever, actually, since it used to be since World War II, and now it's just absolute record numbers of refugees and internally displaced persons. So on my trip, I specifically wanted to go to visit Hamburg, Germany, to meet some of these refugees, and I'll explain to you why Hamburg in just a minute. Hamburg, I don't know if you've ever visited. It's a beautiful city, a northern port city in Germany. I have a couple of pictures that I took. The middle is their new opera house, which I think opened in January. It's absolutely beautiful. It was a wonderful city to visit. And I specifically went to visit my old friend Britta. She's a nurse, and I worked with her in the Thai refugee camp. I worked for Save the Children, and she worked for Catholic Relief Services, I believe. And we've kept in touch since then. She is a nurse, as I said, and has two different jobs, nursing. She has two children, and she's a single mother. And in her free time, which little free time she has, she volunteers to help the refugees. About 2 years ago, her small town, which is just north of Hamburg, was flooded with thousands of refugees who just they crossed the border and they ended up in her town. The town was not expecting them, they didn't know what to do, and everyone came out to help the refugees. She was one of those very willing souls. She got together with a number of friends and colleagues and tried to help. And one thing they did to help was to create a local coffee shop in town. They had some donated space, and they created this warm environment for refugees in need. And I copied this right off their Facebook page. Their coffee shop offers a place where the refugees can learn to speak English in informal groups. They provide help for refugees or migrants who may need to go visit the authorities to present a document, to explain a document. They'll go with you if you need directions to the authorities, if you need help, if you need translation services, they'll help you with forms. Basically, it's a place where the refugees can go at any time. It's open, I think it's open 24 hours. And it's always stocked with volunteers, with willing Germans who would love to help, which I found absolutely surprising. They are very generous with their time, with their patience. And so a number of these coffee shops have popped up around the country. There on the bottom, their coffee shop also has sporting events. They have activities for the women. They have activities for the children. They've got tons of things going on. So this is one example of the kindness of the German population toward the refugees. And a number of these coffee shops have popped up all around the country. This is another one that I found on the website called Cafe Refugee, the Cafe of Hospitality. And I copied the word for word right off this website. You could take a look at it. The address is on the bottom of the screen here. Places like Cafe Refugio in the basement of a church are a kind of grassroots answer to the isolation problem many of the refugees here face. Funded entirely by the church and local donations, the cafe opened a little over a year ago with the hope of creating a destination place for refugees outside of the temporary housing communities. So Bridget's organization was non-denominational. This organization is funded more through a church, but a number of these have sprouted up around the country where refugees can go. They can get free internet service, charge their phones, get a warm meal, get clothes. They have clothing donation drives, or just to hang out and try to speak English, speak German, or speak with other folks who might be in a similar situation. So I thought this was a great example of how the Germans are really helping the refugees. And I have to say, there was also very warm feeling for the Austrians who've accepted the refugees as well. I met with many Austrian families, and everyone is helping with refugee families, with a different refugee family. They're all helping, whether donating space, their time, just general assistance. Everyone's very willing to help, which I really found refreshing. This is a picture of notices in a refugee camp. I went to a number of different refugee camps, not the refugee camps like I've worked with in the past in Thailand and such. These are refugee camps that are set up within existing institutions. This one specifically was in a factory. And they created a number of rooms. They just created freestanding walls for their various refugee families. And this was a billboard for services that the center offered in a number of different languages. And the flyer in the upper right-hand corner is for the organization that my friend started, Refugees Battles, and with their Facebook page. So since 2011, many refugees have been escaping from Syria. I just want to talk about Syria for a moment. 10 years ago, Aleppo in Syria was a beautiful, very sophisticated city that has subsequently been ravaged by the war. These are some pictures from some of the families that we met with. There are some of their last photos as they left their country. This is a YouTube video. I've got a technical challenge, so I can't incorporate this into our presentation here, but this was a video. It's about a minute 33 seconds long. It was created by Save the Children in 2014, and it's basically a simulation of a girl from Britain as she becomes a refugee. So if you get a chance, you can take a look at it. You can just search Save the Children most shocking day or most shocking second day. There are a number of there's first day, second day, third day, where they have these videos on the internet. It's a very powerful couple of seconds. These are pictures of Syria that I found just on the internet 10 years ago and today. It's the same place over time, and you can see the destruction, the devastation that has taken place. Some more pictures of the area, the cities within Syria. Another one comparing 2007 versus 2011. Oh, excuse me. I jumped ahead. This picture here these two pictures are pictures of the homes of our friends, the former homes. Imagine if these were your homes that you had to leave. Frightening. So the route for many of the migrants seeking freedom is incredibly dangerous. Specifically from Syria and Afghanistan, the refugees and the migrants will travel through to Turkey, They will cross the mountains from Syria into Turkey and then cross the sea. It's about 4.1 miles to reach Lesbos, Greece. There's actually a documentary, 4.1 miles. It's the 20-minute documentary in Module 3 that highlights the frightening journey across the sea. Once they reach Lesbos, there are refugee camps there. I'm sure you've seen those in the news. From there, they will trek north up through the forest, hidden throughout Europe, to their country of destination, either Germany, or many are going to Sweden, some to England. But it's very, very treacherous, especially in the winter months. Many are trying to go to Germany because Germany offers some of the most generous benefits to asylum seekers in the EU. Sweden as well. They're very generous to asylum seekers and refugees. And I just wanted to highlight Germany's policy. I found this on the web. Asylum refugee policy in Germany, and looking at the verbiage highlighted in yellow. The fundamental right of asylum thus has high priority and expresses Germany's willingness to fulfill its historical and humanitarian obligation to admit refugees. Blah, blah, blah on the bottom. If the asylum application is accepted, persons granted asylum status and those granted refugee status receive a temporary residence permit and are given the same status as Germans within the social insurance system, which is remarkable. They are entitled to social welfare, child benefits, child raising benefits, integration allowances, and language courses, as well as other forms of integration assistance. Very, very, very generous benefits. Versus the United States, I think in Florida, asylum seekers and refugees are given 90 days of help in the forms of rent, and they'll give them money. But after 90 days, most of that's cut off. And the folks have to have learned English, have found a job, have found transportation, either purchasing a car or understanding the transportation system to figure out how many buses they need to take to get to work on time. Their children have to be enrolled in school. They have to have clothes. They have to have uniforms. They have to have everything ready to go within 90 days, which is quite a challenge. Specifically looking at Germany, refugees who reach Germany are first sent to these temporary camps or housing units until their paperwork can be processed. This is one such temporary housing unit. It was I think this may have been a church, and now it's just, as you can see, filled with cots. This was I think this was an opera, some type of theater. Refugees are supposed to stay in these temporary camps for less than 3 months, when they are then transferred to smaller, more private refugee housing sites. So you can see they're here. It's very, very basic. They're sleeping on the floor. They've got some blankets and they've got food, and that's it. So hopefully they're here no longer than 3 months. And then I found this on the web. Quote, the goal is to spread out refugees to make social and cultural interaction more natural. But available space for temporary housing is limited, and many refugees just cannot afford to find their own apartment. So the goal is to spread out refugees so that they learn to integrate quicker to within the German culture. And this picture is from an airplane. An airplane hangar that was transformed into a refugee camp. Temporary walls were instituted to give some form of privacy with lockers, and they have a common shower and bathing unit. And this is the description of this unit. The word integration is frequently used in the refugee conversation in Germany. There's even a required 8-month integration course for all asylum seekers in the country that includes intensive German language courses and lectures covering culture and history. So that's pretty intense, that it's a required 8-month integration course. Everyone has to complete that before they move on and search for a job. So many of the folks that I met with were in the middle of this 8-month integration course, trying to learn German. They learned English in schools and the refugee camps. along the way, but now they must learn German. This was an interesting temporary refugee camp. It was called Transit, and it houses 216 people on 3 floors. Floor is divided into 2 wings with a communal kitchen. There's shared bathrooms. And there's a laundry area. It's very clean, and there's strict rules for who can visit and when. I thought that was kind of neat. This is a picture of a family who escaped from Aleppo, Syria, um, and they shared with us their story. It was incredibly treacherous. Just to actually, the husband went first, and the wife went second, and the husband made it, and then sent money for the wife to um, hook up with a human smuggler who smuggled herself and her 2 young boys um, through the route to Turkey and then up through Germany. And she didn't want to talk about the story, but she shared a couple of insights, and then my friend Britta and my other friend Robin filled me in on the rest of their story, and it was heartbreaking. The father was a pharmacist, and they were a wonderful, wonderful family. She was a teacher, and he had his own pharmacy, and he was um, driving home from work one day in a Nissan Sentra, which is a great car to have, or was a good car to have back in the day. And the military stopped him and asked him to get out of the car and to surrender it because the military needed his car and it was no longer his. So he was left there on the road and had to find his own way home, and his car was gone. About 2 months later, he was arrested. No word went to his wife. She had no idea what happened to him. She thought he was killed. He was arrested because they claimed that he was selling medicine to the rebels, which he said he was not doing. But there's so many different factions within the country right now. Everyone is trying to kill everyone. There's a tremendous amount of mistrust. So anyway, he was thrown into jail, and he was there for 6 months, and he was absolutely tortured. He was shocked every day and completely tortured. His wife had no idea where he was. She had to bribe the guards, the military, to find out that he was actually in prison. And then after 6 months, she was able to beg and get enough money from all her friends and family to bribe to get him out of jail. And when she did, and she saw him and the condition he was in, he didn't recognize her, and he didn't recognize their 2 young sons, and because of the traumatic torture that he had undergone over the past 6 months. And she tried to bring him back over the next 2 months, and some of his memory did return, but he's a completely different person. And one night they heard that he was going to be killed, so he had to escape that night. They had to find a human smuggler and smuggle him out, and it was in the winter, so he had to go on a fishing boat, with 52 people, 23 of whom were young children, and they were trying to bring together food, water, and life preservers. And the smugglers said, "We have to go now. The police are coming. Get in the car now. Get in the boat now. We have life preservers. They're already on the boat. The food's already there. It's a huge ship. Just get on the boat now," and push them in. And so they jumped into this small fishing boat, and there was no big boat out in the sea. And in fact, they got out there, and the only thing that met them was another boat with more people. And they added more people to their boat, and it started sinking, and they left. And the Coast Guard came and refused to take them for various reasons. And so the boat was sinking, and then an American shipliner came by and picked them up. And he said he vows his life to America because this American shipliner picked him up and saved him and all these children because there was no water, no food, and no life preservers. So it would have been horrendous. And this gentleman was just wonderful. It was, to hear his story, it was treacherous. Then his wife, they bought a new house, and the house was bombed and blown up, disintegrated, and she had to leave with the 2 boys. And listening to her story, traveling in the mountains in the snow, it was heartbreaking. Anyway, they invited us to their house for dinner. It was wonderful. We were there for hours. Just very kind, generous family. We were also invited to a family to dinner, a family from Damascus. And they were once again, very kind, very generous, just making us feel like we were kings and queens in their home. Just wonderful, wonderful. They cooked for hours and hours and hours and had just every type of snack and food item you could ever imagine. And this is the family with their post-Ramadan celebration that they invited us to celebrate with them. And my three children, so on the left are my three children, that's me with my husband and my friend Britta, and this is the family's oldest son, Shadi. And their older sister is on the left there. All the kids got along well. They all got along well. The English was, was a little broken, but brought out the video games. Everyone could communicate, and wow, did they love Snapchat. So these are the kids playing, walking around town. They had fun, and they sure did love Snapchat. They took 50 pictures from Snapchat. It was a lot of fun. Another family I met, this is Sama, and she's a former news correspondent from Damascus. These are some of her clips on the side. She was like the Katie Couric or the Savannah Guthrie, or she was they only had one news channel, and she was the head correspondent on that channel. One day she went to work and realized that the whole entire building had been taken over by rebel groups, and they had guns and clubs, and they said they would threaten her if she didn't say certain things. She went up to her office, and her boss said she has to say other things, and she started getting death threats because she was a big, huge personality, and she found out that someone was going to kill her, so she had to escape with her daughter and her son. And her husband had already left to go to Qatar, where he was working. She was smuggled and ended up in Hamburg, and they have no idea if they're ever going to be able to reunite. It's really a terrible story. Another gentleman I met with, one of the refugee camps we we visited, Ahmed, and he's from Afghanistan. I think I spelled this wrong. And he's a refugee who came to Hamburg, and he's in front of his room here. That's me, and I spoke with him for a while. He's delightful to speak with, very smart, articulate. You'd love, if anyone's interested in emailing him, he would love to talk to you. He has been denied refugee status twice, so I'm not sure where he's going to go or what his life will look like in the future. It was very sad. He was with, I met 6 Afghanistani gentlemen, and they had all been denied twice refugee status. So I don't know what's going to happen to them. And then, okay, what am I doing now since I've gotten home besides teaching? I've been volunteering at a camp for refugee children here in Jacksonville. I've been working with World Relief for about 7 or 8 years, and World Relief is one of the 3 refugee resettlement organizations here in town. I don't know if you know, but Florida has one of the largest number. They take in the most refugees, the second most refugees in the country, and Northern Florida here in Jacksonville takes in a large number. And so I've been working with the 3 refugee resettlement organizations, meeting with their different folks. I've had them come to speak to my students. My students have gone to their organizations to meet the refugees and to help out in certain ways. And anyways, I'm working with my children right now to volunteer at a refugee camp, which is really rewarding. And we're working on some STEM activities here. So anyway, that was my presentation. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions, any insights you'd like to share, I'd love to hear them. And thanks so much for listening. I really appreciate it. Have a fantastic day.